your broadcast on my screen.
Here we go. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the IQ podcast.
It's us, IQ.
We are here.
It is all of us. We are all of IQ.
That's a good intro. That settles it. We don't have to do anything else. Eat Your Meats, Highly and Pickles, Snazzy. Thank you for joining me again this week for another great in-depth discussion about streaming. Today, I'm going to start with. We're just going to jump right in. I want to start with like the purpose of this discussion. So this is going to be kind of an opinion discussion more than anything. It's not really. We don't really have like final answers, but we do know when things go really badly. So we're going to be talking about branding, and we could basically start with. Branding is one of those things that I think every streamer either doesn't do right on one spectrum or the other, right? They accidentally overdo it or they accidentally underdo it. And there's no like good middle ground. And one of the things that I think goes really wrong is that people rush into getting like their entire branding set up. Like a lot of people won't even stream. Right. So if you're a streamer that's like, you feel like you can't even go live until you've got all your alerts, you've got all your emotes ready, even though you're not an affiliate yet, or you have to have like your banners and your panels and 100% everything. You want to look like a streamer, and you're leaning so heavily on this idea that is the most important thing, and your stream isn't going to grow. That is like probably a toxic space to be in, because a lot of streamers will think that is like a part of what makes their stream grow the most, is the branding, or they like have to identify with like the branding, and then they overdo it, or they go to like Fiverr or something. You guys know what I'm talking about? Does this make sense?
Yes. I know what Fiverr is, even though I've never actually used the service, but...
Oh, I have purchased things from Fiverr.
Yeah, I think a lot of people either just underdo it, they don't do enough, and then they stream for like 3 months and they never change anything about their branding or upgrade anything, or they...
I definitely agree with you on that there is a lot of people who, and not just in branding too, like equipment as well. Like there's a lot of like this pressure of like, oh, I need to have everything to be at the top end before I can stream, and like I could not disagree more.
Yeah,
I think it's, yeah, especially when it comes to branding, and I think it's important also that I think there's a difference between having a brand and branding.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that.
I feel like how your channel is presented doesn't necessarily, like, a brand is like almost like a shtick. Like when like that, I feel like that's like bad when your brand is like a very focused thing, versus branding, which is just like how like general themes of how you present your stream, right? Your fonts, your colors, you know.
Sure.
Do you have clown barf? Are all your panels different? Like that kind of thing. Like you can kind of standardize that and have that sort of be a cohesive theme without having a brand. Like, or at least that's how I feel anyway.
Or a lot of that would be just considered like good branding, at least having colors and fonts organized. Like, or branding is really two things, right? So let's kind of define what branding is supposed to be first. Branding is really, it's kind of a way to communicate yourself, right? Like your identity through organization, right? Colors, fonts, logos. It's like a general communication to somebody who either knows you or doesn't know you. And so having that stuff organized is kind of good, because then you at least know what your messaging is. But like this could also become like a really dangerous territory, because if you don't know yourself that well, especially in the streaming space, like, can you guys all relate to the idea that you feel like the longer you stream, the more it kind of changes your perspective on things in the streaming space?
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
So it may not be a good idea to like have everything done when you haven't even really streamed yet. Right?
Oh. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I was first like starting out, right, before I started streaming. I literally had a plan in my head that I was going to stream wearing a Mandalorian helmet. That
Like all the time.
all the time. Like, I just wouldn't show my face ever. It would be like this thing that people would want to know, but they would never know. And like, I'm so glad I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Because it would have been stupid, and I would have been sweaty and hot, and would have done like 6 streams and said, "Fuck."
Yeah, this is
Wow.
I think branding is one of these exploratory elements of streaming that's so like nice, and if you rush past that process to get to the end, then you're missing out on like kind of what it's like to grow and learn about streaming, and also like you're not really done. The thing about streaming is it's such a creative space. You kind of want to give yourself room to like break out of those boundaries. So if you come up with a really cool idea that's unique, like, oh, there's probably something you can do with panels that nobody's done before. Or something you can do with stream overlays or alerts that a lot of people aren't doing. And a lot of this is messaging. Like for instance, let's talk. I'm gonna bring this Pickles. You a part of your branding, and a lot of people probably don't think about it this way, but I'd like to talk about it in this context. A part of your branding is sort of like this weird relationship that you hand over to chat to do things on your stream, right? It's a part of like your stream. People identify you and your stream with this. I can type things in and these things happen. And so like, I guess it seems like a little too inorganic to call it branding, but in a way it works like a branding should. It's like the way branding should work is that people can identify a unique message and relationship between them and your stream's existence. Does that make sense?
Essence. The essence
Yeah.
of Pickles.
I never considered that idea branding, but that does make sense in that way.
Well, I think that's where branding is actually effective, is at that level. It like setting up like the relationship between the viewer and the stream. Otherwise, what is it? It's just like drawings. Right? Like it's like a logo. What is a logo if it doesn't communicate something with your viewers? Right? Is it just it's just a picture? Is that, and is that branding at that point? If it's just like, here's a picture of my face. Like
Well, it depends on what your face looks like.
I mean, for
Same.
some people, that is the brand, right? That's the brand. Is the
True. Okay, so I think we're kind of like starting to, you guys are starting to see kind of like my perspective on this whole thing. Let's dig into some like very specifics. So VTubing and character-driven streams. I know Eat Your Meats has a gag
I have
reflex.
very strong
when it
opinions
comes-
about VTubing, and I can't even place my finger on it. They creep me out, and I know a lot of people really enjoy it. Just it doesn't sit well with
I
me.
can't wait to
and
do the VTuber episode. You know, like.
I will probably
VTuber?
bow out of
Yeah,
that one
this
because I'll
is-
be just uncomfortable the entire time.
It's
what
fine.
about PNG tubing?
PNG?
PNG tubing is just
So
still
that-
images,
Just still
clacking
images.
away like South
Yeah.
Park.
True. Kind of like animated emotes.
Yeah, it's like when it gets to a certain level of humanness, like it's that like irony line. It's like, when do you draw the line from like, this is clearly ironic to like, this is someone seriously doing? I don't know.
All right, well, let's try to
Is
frame
it a
it.
little uncanny?
Sorry.
Is it
So-
like Uncanny Valley?
Uncanny Valley. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening there. Is
But
Uncanny
I
Valley.
think Meats brings up a good point, though, right? If you choose to go down that line of if you're choosing to be a VTuber, right? You are then automatically alienating a subset of people who don't enjoy VTubing, right? That your brand is not going to be appealing to somebody who doesn't like VTubing.
So
Right?
is
somebody who's freaked out by
Well, I
VTubers
think
or whatever.
I think it's less like alienating others and more so like diving headfirst into the subculture, like almost exclusively, right? Because the people who do like VTubers and like the different styles of VTubing, they're all part of a different. They're generally part of a different subculture, and then they all kind of gravitate to that person, but it makes it very hard for normies. I don't know, just people not a part of that subculture to like find an entryway into.
So this is one of the dangers with overbranding or making decisions about what you want to do with your stream too early, where you can kind of brand yourself into a corner, and then you may not like that corner you're in. You may not like the messaging that branding then provides. So you kind of
And I would also mention too, if you are going to do something like that, you totally can. But if you are going to do something like that, that's really like a subculture or like a really, a well defined group of people with their own, society, their own, in a way, right? Their own terms and phrases, their own
culture.
mannerisms. You have to be familiar with what those are, right? If I woke up, I'm like, I'm gonna have an anime theme, but all I know is like Pokemon and I don't know, Naruto, right? And that's
Those,
not gonna
those are
sit well.
anime, that's valid.
Well, that makes you a poser.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm kind of saying is like you have to be legitimate too if you're gonna
Yeah.
be, ingrained in that. Unless you embrace the illegitimacy, I guess. But that would be even more
That's
challenging.
harder. That's harder to do, and it ends up coming across most of the time as like making fun of that subculture more than
Exactly.
anything.
Yeah.
But I
And,
think
like,
that's good.
if you're going to, my only thing is like if you're going to do that, you have to be prepared to make that your whole identity, right?
right forever.
Yeah.
Like
Changing
like
that's gonna
Doc.
be really hard unless you do
Not
it
necessarily
quick.
forever, but yeah, you're gonna have to deal
No,
with,
Doctor Disrespect is stuck, right?
Oh, he's stuck as if he wants to maintain that level of success, I guess is the word for it. Then yeah, he's stuck as Doctor Disrespect. But if he was fine with getting down to like a couple hundred people maybe watching him a day, right?
It's a good example of
He
like,
could jump out.
do you want
Nothing's
that?
stopping him.
Do you want to be Doctor Disrespect? Do you want to have to
Well-
always wear the glasses and always wear this whatever jumpsuit thing? And
Back to my Mandalorian helmet imagery there. That's what it would have been, right? It says because that would have been the main appeal. Like, oh, I don't know what this guy looks like. He's a mystery. He's got a Mandalorian helmet on, and maybe a voice changer, right? Listen, I thought about this too much. Like that would be the appeal, and as soon as you dump that appeal, that audience that you've been building with that appeal, there's a good chance that many of them will not stick around, right? Because you're no longer providing the thing they were after, right?
okay, so this is one of the concerns I have with branding overall is that like streamers will lean too heavily on the helmet idea or like your branding. If you lean too heavily on my alerts are what are make my stream great, like that is a really weak point. You're taking one of like a weakness of streaming, and like you want to be the strongest thing on your stream because you're the thing that's never leaving. Like you always have to be there. And so if you lean too heavily, you take the energy of your stream and invest it so heavily in like logos and alerts and all this stuff, or a costume or VTubing, like you got to be really committed to those ideas for the long term, and you got to know that this is what I'm doing, kind of as a forever kind of thing. It's the same thing with a YouTube channel. Like if you start a YouTube channel and you're reviewing, I don't know, animes, and then one day you switch to like, reading poetry, like you're totally going to lose your audience because this is completely different content. So I feel like there's too much of a risk in, especially newer streamers. Like you shouldn't know what your branding is entirely. Like you
And
shouldn't.
I think it has a lot to do with dimensionality too, right? So if you've created a branding strategy that is very one-dimensional, that could be a huge issue because it falls out of favor or you get sick of it or, it just doesn't sit right. So I think one of the most important things about branding is incorporating multiple dimensions of that so that you are able to appeal to a larger group, but also, be able to shift with the zeitgeist.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I think it's how specific do you want your branding to be, right? Because you could if you could have very specific branding where you wear the glasses and your Doctor Disrespect, but like for example, Meats' branding, right? There's a lot of meat themed stuff, but that's pretty broad. You could play a lot, within that category. You're not limited to this very very specific subset of I'm the guy with the glasses and the bulletproof vest who plays games on stream, right?
I don't.
Or
Yeah.
There's lots of meat you could play with.
Yeah, there's so much meat.
Oh my gosh.
So much meat.
And the actual meat of her branding is actually not like that stuff. It's more like her personality. Your stream leans more on like your positive affirmations and like your the way you treat new followers and subs, like your the way you do gratitude on stream. That's more closely like it's your stream identity. Like people walk away from your stream identifying that as being your core aspects, not meat, right? Meat is just kind of like a fun side thing. That
It doesn't become a cliche. It becomes it's something that's supplementary to the stream rather than being the focus.
right,
Yeah, I think what we're talking about right now is the difference between like an aesthetic and an identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like her identity is like all those things that you just described about her, like personally, and the things that people come away with. But like the aesthetic, it's like red and yellow meat, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
Well,
that
I think
that
that's the
part isn't her identity.
right.
and I think that's the danger with branding is when your aesthetic starts becoming the identity.
Yeah.
When like Sonny, like what you said, when you rely so much on that branding that you've got nothing else going, right? Like you're the meat man, ha ha ha. You know, it's like
You're-
that wouldn't be nearly as entertaining, right? If you're just the meat man.
yeah. It's less fun too if you're stuck in a costume, because how do you do another costume? Like if you want to do a thing where you like Jared just did this thing where he's dressed up with the Among Us character, like how do you what are you gonna wear the Mandalorian helmet and wear the Among Us costume and
I mean, yeah, that's the plan.
yeah.
I'd actually like to see that. Yeah, it sounds kind of interesting.
Well, like the thing about that though, and like I had to think about this myself when I started doing the transforming into a GameCube meme on my channel. Like
Good meme.
Jared told me like I should just be a GameCube all the time, but he told me that like because he thought it would be funny.
Right.
But I didn't want to do that because then I would be
Stuck.
the
A
GameCube.
GameCube,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I turned it into like a temporary thing. Like, oh, I'll just transform every once in a while.
Well, that-
is like a joke.
I think the temptation is to use this stuff as a quick path to success, and I just don't think that
Yeah.
it's really that possible to do. I don't think you could skip any. I don't think it's a good idea to skip either. Like you don't want to rush past some things and then be ill prepared for you don't want to make like your stupid mistakes with 100 viewers. It's easier to make those mistakes and realize you don't want to do stuff like that again. Like with 15 viewers and be like, I'll never do that again. It's much
But on the
harder.
flip side, if you've been at it for a while and you have a good idea of what your identity is, you can lean into it, and you can, again, you shouldn't use it as a crutch, but you could definitely use it as sort of the primary thing that people associate with you. For example, like a VTuber, right? If you're comfortable enough knowing that, hey, I want to VTube forever, right? I want to be my furry avatar forever. There's a wide open space for that. There's a lot of people who enjoy that kind of thing, and they will come to you because you've invested this time and effort into turning yourself into a cartoon essentially, but
True. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's not to say like if you do get stuck with this kind of thing that it's impossible to shift away from, but it is going to be
Rough.
challenging. And if you look at like a lot of big streamers who do have this kind of thing, like Code Miko, she kind of like built her whole thing around being like a VTuber who's a video game character, like in a interactive
Right.
game, right? But then she ended up like shifting, like including actual like her.
Right from the beginning too. She was very she had like a strategy to be like I don't remember, she called herself like the programmer or something like she always referred to her regular identity even in the character, so that there was kind of a bridge that she could build between the two, her normal personality and the VTubing aspect. And
Yeah,
so
now she can be the technician whenever she
Oh,
wants.
technician,
She can be
yeah,
Code,
that's what it was.
yeah, or she could be Code Miko whenever she wants.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
she built an out and like made clear communication that kind of thing existed, and that it could swap at any moment. And I think like that kind of thing is one of the bigger hurdles you need to get over if you are going to try to transition away from like a specific part of your stream identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a message. I think that's the thing I want to try to get across is that you're telling people something about you all the time with your logo, with your banners, with your Twitter account, with your profile pictures, with your titles, with your colors. You're communicating a message. And so like do you want that message to be like very specific and narrow and then you're stuck, or do you want to be like widen that message to be inclusive of how much should it include? Like obviously we all have personal lives and stuff, so you don't necessarily want everything to be included in all of your messaging. Like sometimes you want to be able to just go to your stream and like be a certain kind of way, a certain kind of person, and like present yourself. So there's like a kind of a balance, right? Like on some level, we all have a stream personality. Would you guys agree with that? Like you're on camera.
Yeah, there's affectations that we take in so many different roles, but yeah, absolutely.
So we're not VTubing, but we're kind of it's a play. You're putting on a show a little bit, like.
Yeah.
Well, like when you have guests over to your house, you're not like sitting there in your underwear scratching your gut drinking a beer usually.
Some
like,
people do that, and it's really
some people do
uncomfortable.
that. Like, my point is
that why no one visits me?
You must be really good friends with whoever's coming to visit you if that's the case. I'm like, you must.
Yeah,
be.
exactly. Like there's a certain level of presentation that anybody does when they're hosting a party.
Sure.
Like, we make that analogy a lot. Like we're here to host a party, quote unquote, and it's because streaming a lot of the times is inviting people into your life. People, strangers into your life.
Yeah, this is the key I think people miss is that your branding wants to be like the messaging overall, the identity of your stream wants to be in a spot where it's inviting to new people. I think that's the other risk that you come up with branding. Like if you become like the mad scientist character and you put on the lab coat all the time and you have goofy hair and you have everything is branded with like the mad scientry stuff going on and like that can maybe collect like a small crowd of people that are either watching this train wreck or are like, and then everybody else is kind of like, what is going on? Like, what is the in here? What is this? Is this
when your intro is like an hour long and it's all like mad science themed, like maybe time to dial that back a little bit. Just
whatever it is though, it's just got to be like authentic. It's got to be you. Like you may be that kind of person, but you have to be able to like, if you're gonna commit that hard to a bit, you have to be able to sustain it theoretically forever.
Yeah,
like you have to prepare to be able to sustain that forever.
How do you guys feel about canned responses?
Much like any other shtick, if done properly, they're great. They're wonderful. They're funny. They're stream jokes.
Can you almost always tell when it's canned?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like, so for me, like when I was working in retail, like we would have like responses, like we'd have to tape them to the monitor, the cash register, and be like, okay, when someone calls, you answer the phone and say this exactly, but substitute like X, Y, and Z with A, B, and C, right?
Yep.
And it's like everybody ignores that when you like answer the phone and when you're talking to people. And it's really obvious to tell when people are giving you a canned response on stream. But for me, like I'm generally pretty bad at like slightly changing how I say something. So like I have to write this script in my head and kind of loosely follow it. But like I try as hard as I can to make it natural by taking away like parts of the phrase, you know what I mean?
I think it's just like becomes too redundant in some cases.
It does. I've been in a stream where somebody raided and then they did their spiel, and as soon as they finished, somebody else rated, and they said the exact same thing with the same exact cadence and the same exact affectation, like
So this
to a
is
T.
That's a bit much.
over
But I
branding
do-
big time.
Yeah,
That's
I
a,
do
that's too
think that
much.
having like practiced phrases for those events are good. And I'm probably saying that because I tend to do that. Like I have a couple things that I'll say. Like if someone subs, I feel like responding similarly when people sub is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And having something prepared about how you're going to address that, or when someone raids, having at least some variety of things that you'll say in response to that, because I think those types of things, those triggering events, you should try to treat as equally as possible.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
I get that.
absolutely.
Yeah. I don't
You
know.
don't,
I just feel like not everybody is good at executing this.
you don't want like somebody, somebody gives you something like, oh, thanks so much for the sub, and then the next one sub, you're like, oh, okay, thank you, I guess. Like it sounds it sounds silly, but some people do that because you know what it is, they run out of steam, right? If you have a specific script, right? If you have a specific thing that you're reacting to, you have to be ready for it to repeat
Yeah.
a lot on
Yeah.
stream, right? Because it can happen where you get this effect where it's happening over and over and over, and if you're not ready to genuinely say that every time or behave that way every time, then yeah, it's gonna start sounding bad towards the end of it, right?
Well, but I think the thing that gets lost in translation is that like you're not an alert. Like
Yeah.
like the alert does the thing that's repetitive kind of in a way for you already, and that so I'd say there's a good way to do it if you're going to have responses, but I rarely see it done right. I've watched people rush through it, right? So somebody will follow, and then somebody's got like a phrase, and they'll be like, "Oh, welcome, sit down at the thing, and we'll have a discussion and have a good time." And then the next person follows, and they're like, "Oh, well, welcome to the thing," and then it becomes like word garbage. Like you can't the new
Like they're tired
person.
of repeating themselves, so they just say it faster, and it gets less
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm
less
saying. Like,
genuine.
yeah, you run out of steam, right? You
Yeah.
just want to get through it.
You're
at
just
that point, right?
pushing
'Cause
through it. You're no
you've said
longer
it
saying
times
it.
already,
Yeah,
you
and
You're
so
saying it because you have to.
yeah. And so you really want to be careful with this stuff. I mean, and then also it comes off as really inauthentic. So you've got a new viewer they follow, and then they're hanging out and they kind of like you, and they're digging the stream a little bit, and then another person follows, and you do the same thing with that person, and then you do the same thing with that person, and then like if most of your stream is just comes off as this like rinse and repeat experience, it's hard to catch what's authentic and what's not authentic. Where's the person anymore? So like if your identity is covering up too much of your streams, like your stream is just like an alert over and over again. Like at what point does the streamer come out? So I don't know. I think the biggest
I think that's something that needs to be gauged based off of your community. So if you're someone who gets like a follower to a night, maybe a sub, I think it's totally fine. But you're absolutely right. As you grow, if you like, I recognize follows by just saying thanks for the follow, friend, and that's like it, right? In some way, size, shape, or form. But and even bigger streamers still do some sort of canned response to subs that they personally deliver. And I disagree with you about the branding. As long as you're able to deliver it well and deliver it consistently, and it's not weird, like super weird, or I don't know. I'm of the pro thanking people or having some sort of response that they'll expect from a sub.
yeah. Oh
'Cause
no,
they
I
may
think it's
want to see
okay.
that.
I think the danger is it feeling inauthentic, and it's
Yeah.
on the streamer to make sure that it feels genuine every time, because
Yeah.
like that's what you want, right?
Well, I think kind of like what Sunny said. I think the alert serves, or the alert should serve the purpose of doing that repetitive thing, and then you just kind of add on to it at the end, right? Like
I think, and it
you
can be done.
yeah,
It can
you
be
can be
executed.
thankful without being robotic, right? You have the alert play, alert happens, and you thank whatever they did. Like thank you for the sub, you don't have to necessarily act out the whole thing every time.
Well,
Just for that reason, right?
there's kind of a balance you should strike too, right? If you're gonna do a thing every time someone follows, it should be maybe like you need to elevate it as well, because like Meats, when you elevate it, you don't just say the same thing. You have a different like pudding you hold up to the camera. You've taken like a basic response and elevated it at least to the point where you have like a prop, and you're like trying to be engaging with the thing that's going on, right?
Yes.
I'd say if you're going to have a thing, like let's say you have a raid response that is like crazy, and you're like, hey, welcome to the bar, and you have this repetitive thing that you do over and over again. Maybe you should take a moment, take like an afternoon, and like make a whole scene that goes along with that, so that it's elevated. Like try to bring it above just like a script, and because I think the danger is sounding repetitive and feeling like that you've done enough, and it's not really enough. Like you want to grab pudding from the fridge, even if you're not going to eat it yourself. Like, grab a prop, grab yourself, like design a thing and elevate it so that it's like, I don't know, like a real experience. Like, give your viewers and your audience like the experience of something that you're doing. I think it's a weird balancing act that you kind of have to make when you do this stuff, and being repetitive, if it comes off like it's just you're repeating yourself over and over again, that's kind of danger territory, I guess.
Right.
I mean, that's what raid videos are, right? That they're just repeating things over and over again.
Yeah, true.
I feel like we've made our peace with raid videos and how they're not good.
But
Yeah.
for some people, they're a very full part of their branding, right? It's like somebody raids, oh, I have to play the video because this is what carries my response to a raid, right?
Okay, I have a spicy question.
Oh boy,
Do you need a logo?
no.
Why?
Need.
Do you need a logo? Like, okay, like someone says, "Oh, I would stream, but I don't have a logo yet."
That's
No.
a silly reason not to stream.
Of course. Do
I
you
don't
need
think
a
that you
logo?
do.
I thought you said it was
As
gonna
a
be spicy,
streamer.
Sonny.
It is. It's a little spicy.
Well, it is kind of spicy. So, like, for me, when I started streaming, like, I was the type of person. I'm usually the type of person to like over prepare and like prepare things like 3 months in advance before I need to do it. So like everything that's on my channel now has been replaced from when I started. But when I started, I wanted to have something in every like spot. Like, I wanted something consistent in my panels. Wanted to have like something consistent for like my profile pictures, something for my alerts, something for this and that. And like that, when you kind of get in that headspace, you kind of think like, here's the list of things that I would like, and I got to try to fill these slots, and if I don't do that, I'm not going to feel ready. And so I've seen a lot of people who, like, one thing I didn't have at the time was like stingers or whatever, but that was something that
What are stingers?
the transitions, like when you transition between scenes. It
Oh,
plays
sorry,
like a
I'm dumb.
slide.
I don't know anything. Okay.
But I've seen people who have been streaming for like 2 weeks, and they have like really like just like full branding, like high effort stingers and high effort this and that and whatever. I don't know. I don't think that you need a logo though. Like, me preparing that much was definitely unnecessary because, like I said, it's all gone now. And there are friends that I have who stream who don't have branding at all, but everybody knows them because their brand is themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people recognize the identity of who they are.
Streaming
Like,
is so unique in this way.
yeah.
And there's a lot of people whom I know who stream, and the thing that they're known for is that they're known in other streams, right? They come, they chat, they hang out in other streams, right? And people, like, if you show them the logo or the brand, they'd be like, I don't know who that is, but then you mention the name, and they're like, oh yeah, that guy, I've seen him in Jared's stream, or I've seen him in Meets' stream, like.
Are you talking about Kuma?
I mean, I am explicitly.
No idea who that is, except the name. Yeah.
Kumatori doesn't have any branding, but everybody knows him because he has such a
Perfect example,
strong
yeah.
identity as like the meme lord of the interconnected community, right? Like, people who go to a stream expect memes, right? Like, they expect that from him, but he doesn't have any branding.
I wouldn't
You know
say
what I
any,
mean?
but he has minimal branding, right? He
Well,
doesn't have
minimal.
any
You
like.
can never not have branding. Eventually,
Right.
something.
Well, like,
if you
yeah.
don't fill that space with something, it's gonna get filled by something else entirely. Because there is always some kind of communication going on between you, the broadcaster, and the audience.
Well, Kuma and I had a conversation fairly recently regarding like, well, he asked the question on Twitter, like, emotes and branding, how much does it matter? And like, my thoughts on it are, it kind of doesn't, because people use any random emotes they want anyway, so there's no consistency in the emotes that they use in chat, so there doesn't necessarily need to be consistency in the emotes that you have. Like, they don't need to be instantly identifiable no matter which emote that they're using. It's just got to be something people want to use, because that's all they're going to use anyway.
Some of the
Right.
most popular emotes and most popular type of profile pictures are just pictures of you.
Someone's
Right?
face. Yeah. Yeah.
Someone's face going,
Faces are the best.
you know,
They're
like,
the best.
like those are sometimes the best.
They are the best,
right?
yeah,
So,
they're the
and those
best.
happen kind of organically. They're oftentimes free. You just take a screenshot and you cut out your background, and
This
there
is
you
also-
go. You have an emote.
Side note.
That's all of my emotes of my face.
I haven't
cutting out
actually
the background.
checked, but I'm
I've
pretty
seen.
sure the emotes of my face do way more work than any of my other emotes.
This is a good reason to make sure your microphone isn't like this. Okay? Like, I've seen a lot of streamers and they're like their mic is, you want to get your mic kind of like out of the way so that you could take a screen cap of your stream and make an emote if you needed to.
Unless your whole bit is that you're literally hiding.
Yeah,
behind a
well, you might as
microphone
well
the
just
whole time,
become a
but
microphone. Just dress like a microphone.
there you go, yeah.
Okay, so you don't need a logo, but do you need a thing that acts like a logo? Right. You do need a profile picture.
It's just, it becomes the same thing as like a username, but like, it doesn't need to be. I don't think it needs to be very calculated. You know,
Right.
because like Snazzy's been, his profile picture's been the bounty hunter like
Forever,
forever.
literally.
It's
He's gonna wear a Mandalorian
longer-
mask. We've learned this. We figured it out.
The longer
Like-
that you use that profile picture, the more it becomes associated with you.
yeah. Whenever I see the bounty hunter, I think of
show up on
Snazzy.
stream with an actual bounty hunter helmet, and then people will lose their shit.
Like, it's not. It doesn't have. Like, the only thing that has to do with Snazzy is his Darkest Dungeon, and
Yeah.
that he played a lot of it. Like, it's. Doesn't say anything particularly about Snazzy. It's Snazzy says something about that picture to me.
So
Well,
what?
I mean,
what is the?
if you look at Hylian's branding, right? Not a single pickle anywhere.
That's true.
We don't know what Hylian pickles look like pickles from
Pickles from
Nintendo.
Well, they're
Nintendo
definitely
pickles.
not like a face. So
So you need something that's a mechanism for communicating the way a logo does. But dude, like, you don't need to go to Fiverr and like, I'm sorry. This is a very personal view, but I hate those esports logos. If you're a streamer with like you went to Fiverr and you got one of those like $12 esport logos that just have like the real thick outline, and now that's not gonna make you a good streamer. It's just
well, they're also like everywhere. You know,
yeah,
like
they're overused. Yeah.
yeah.
like if you look at someone's profile and think, oh, like they definitely play Overwatch or League of Legends.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, because the artists who make them can make those in like 15 minutes,
Yeah.
which is why, Anyway, so
even if they never play those games, like that's what I'm gonna think if I see that picture.
yeah. Emotes. You brought up emotes. Let's talk about emotes. How important are they? You said you don't think they're important to be like the same, similar, but
I think they're important to have good ones, but I don't
Yeah.
think like brand consistency is important within that.
what do
'Cause
emotes
like Meat
communicate?
said, well,
Not having
They-
what are you missing in, like, what do you tell people by not having emotes? I don't
You
care
know-
about Twitch culture. I don't
You're
care
not
about your
as
sub.
invested. You're not as invested, right? Because that's what it's saying is like I haven't taken the effort to give you any kind of reward for subbing other than, oh hey, you get a sub, you get a badge, and maybe ad free viewing, right? Emotes are the gift that you give to people, right? In a way.
Well, yeah, because it is like kind of the culture of Twitch that people will sub to show support, right?
Mhm.
Even if you never encourage subs, that's just like the thing people know to do first to like show you that they're like invested for at least a month.
Yeah.
And I think the way you give them a reason to like make that worth it is the show you put on and the emotes that you give, right?
Mhm.
So I think that it's important in that facet.
And I think too, if you have emotes that are really good or really interesting, people use them other places,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And that can be a really good branding tool as well, is because people will recognize your emotes. Or sometimes someone will post an emote in my chat and like, oh my God, what is that? And you
Yeah,
hover over
yeah,
it to try to figure out whose it's from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I've done that plenty of times.
so it's a marketing strategy too, having some interesting emotes. Yeah, you can kind of put some pogs in there and stuff, but have some that are somewhat unique to yourself, that maybe people will use in other places.
Yeah.
Emotes are the branding equivalent of like a goodie bag you get at like a conference, like they give out, like the little gift bags that you like. It's got a tchotchke and a pen in it or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that. That's what emotes are, because like somebody can take that emote and take it elsewhere, like in another stream, and use it when you're offline, and use it when you're not there. It's one of those things that it's a small piece of the stream they can take with them, right? And that
Hmm.
Yeah.
not having that kind of says that about you, like, hey, I don't want you to necessarily share this stream, right? Because I'm not giving you any tools to do that.
All right.
Some
So,
of the emotes that I've made are just emotes I've made out of necessity. Like I don't have something that waves, so I made one that waves just for like me. But like other people use it, and like if I'm lurking on a channel and I haven't said a thing and I see one of my emotes pop up, like that puts a smile on my face, because
mhm.
it means I made something like the people like using.
People
And then like
sometimes people sometimes use my lol emote, and I'm horrified if I haven't said anything, because I'm like, do they know I'm here?
it just feels really cool to like have somebody like say like I sub just for this emote,
Emotes are like digital merch. They're NFTs.
Don't say no, no, stop
No,
that.
no, they're not.
no. Not the cursed word. No.
No, they're digital merch. It's like a good idea to
Yep.
like have emotes so that, like you said, it's a little like nice little goodie bag people can pick up when they sub. I think a lot of people will sub just to be supportive, not they don't want to watch ads on your stream, whatever the reason. There's lots of reasons, but I think the emotes are important. And they do. I think the message is, if you don't care about your emotes, then you don't really care about, like, it's a gratitude thing. It's a good place to show some gratitude towards people who are willing to support your stream. So get some good emotes, and you want to be in a good spot. What about alerts? What do alerts say about a streamer? Maybe we should narrow this down. This is a more
I think
complicated
they
topic.
say a lot because like I think for a lot of people, whatever alerts pop up let the people watching know the kind of things that you are into, whether it's funny or not. Like I made all of my alerts like something that I could laugh at, even if I just like found it alone, like quietly to myself. Um, but you know, people will be like, I've had somebody follow and then it played an alert and somebody else was like, "Oh hell yeah, I love that thing,"
Yeah.
and then also
Yeah,
followed
I'm gonna follow.
because
Yeah.
because they liked the thing that I liked.
You know
Like
the
it kind
alert's
of
good when chat says something about it.
yeah,
I've
like it
had that
creates
happen.
this like
Yeah.
share like it just lets people know what you like, so that they
I've
can
had
know if they
occasions
like
where
it.
people have requested that I play the alert again. That's how entertained they were by it. And like I tell everyone, like, the alert exists there for two reasons, right? It exists there to acknowledge whoever did the thing, but it also does exist there to amuse me. Like, that's
Yeah,
part of my target audience with those alerts is myself. So
Yeah. Yeah, it tells people, you can use your alerts to tell people about you. This is why, okay, so let's talk about like somebody who just grabs the default alerts and never updates them. Like the little running zombie,
mm,
and the same exact Streamlabs sound, over and over again. Like how does that make you feel when you see a streamer and they've got default?
PTSD, honestly. Because you see it in so many places. You're like, what channel am I? What year is it? It's like, I get it starting out, right? It's starting out. You could get your mileage on those for a while, but like after a while, like that zombie's gonna get hella annoying. You need to
Not just the
move on.
zombie, but like the text color and the font too. They like
the exact same spot on the screen everywhere. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
True. Yeah, that one bothers me. So like when I was talking, Jared's alerts were acting up, so he messaged me to help him troubleshoot, and I was like, I just woken up, and I got his message, and I was like, oh, okay, do you need help? Is this an emergency? Do you need help? And he's like, well, I need my alerts working because alerts, they're that's where people they give you money, right? Like, so not only do alerts tell people about like it's like an interactive way, like bits. People give you money and like they're kind of paying for the alert, right? There are alerts people will pay for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if your alerts aren't working and they're not good, you're not incentivizing people to play with your stream with money,
Yeah.
Are you really a streamer if you don't have Careless Whisper for 69 bits? Like, I mean,
I don't have a 69-bit alert. All
I had to
right.
take a note here.
Maybe I need to do that.
Yeah, I
That
think
is
that's
genius.
a cliche, right? 420 bits, something weed related plays. Like, come on, like so many people do that, but there are ways to make that fun because some people are going to do that simply because like
Because
they
the meme.
kind of expect it.
here's a free idea.
Yeah, it's a shared meme. Yeah,
Somebody gives 420 bits and a Dare commercial plays. That's
yeah, that's a good idea.
That's funny. That also like leans into the meme too, like just from a different angle.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like alerts are really important. If you're gonna do anything, and you're just starting out streaming, alerts. And I wouldn't say do everything all at once with that either. Like one of the best things about streaming is coming up with cool ideas or getting inspired by your chat, right? Like something funny will happen on the stream, and people will be like, "Oh, that would make a great alert." That's when you do it, 100%, because that glues people to you big time. Because then they feel like they came up with the alert idea, and oh, that was so funny when that happened. And
if it's something memorable and preferably embarrassing that happens on stream and somebody clips it and that clip explodes,
yeah,
make that clip an alert.
embarrassment
Put that
is
in
good.
there.
Embarrassment
Lean into it. Yeah.
Embarrassment's such a good thing as a streamer. We could probably do a whole entire episode on like people trying to avoid embarrassment on Twitch. Like maybe that's not a good idea.
Why embarrassment is actually good for you.
Yeah, like people who avoid playing horror games because they don't like being scared. And I'm like, that's what people want to watch. That is what they want to watch.
It's directly related to why like a lot of people will eat crazy stuff on stream, right? Or eat things that are mildly toxic because
If you are someone who startles easily like myself, people love it, right?
Oh, that is
People don't want you to like
yeah.
stoically play a game like that. If you're someone who literally my partner will occasionally come in, there's clips of this, so many clips of this, come in like bring me something, and I'll be like, and people love it. They love seeing you just a mess.
So, clearly,
They really do.
you need to find one of those clips and make it an alert.
You know what? You guys have my wheels turning. There's a couple things that I have clipped that I think I need to add into my repertoire.
But see, my point there is, like, you notice, like, this kind of conversation that's happening, it should be what happens with any streamer, and that it should be the conversation that goes on in your head. Because when you're just starting out, if you have all these ideas planned out, you're going to miss out on all these organic things that happen that you turn and make them better than the idea you've had, right? And you can even have an idea that you think is so good, and then it flops, but it flopping then creates another opportunity, right? Like, there's just, I feel like if you are just starting out and you have everything thought out, you are limiting your space to experiment and grow, and you could potentially miss out on a lot of fun and interesting things that you didn't know were going to be fun and interesting things until they happen.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks to go into a stream that has like 3 viewers and everything is done with their branding. Like they've got all the panels and they've got an overlay and they've got every alert and it's all kind of it's done. It's like the streamer.
Well, I think that kind of backfires. Like when I go into a stream that has almost no viewers and it looks like that high up on the professional level, it gives me the perception that they failed at being that professional,
Oh, that's yeah.
which
no,
isn't
it's
fair because it's not true usually.
It isn't
but like,
fair. But your thought is going to be like your natural thought is going to be, and I hate to say this, is going to be like, what's wrong here?
Yeah.
If the stream looks this good, if the branding is this unified and it's this smooth, what is it about this person that's not catching people's eye, right?
Right.
Like if you have all this other stuff ready, why do you only have 3 viewers? Like I hate to say it, but like for a lot of people, that colors their perception of what the stream is. That if they see the stream that's so professionally produced and yet nobody's watching,
Yeah.
because then they start thinking, well, there has to be something wrong here, because otherwise, why wouldn't more people be
You
watching?
may want to tone it down on purpose if you don't have a lot of viewers. You can have a nice
Yeah,
camera,
what-
good sound, good gameplay.
When you're just starting out, like that's people don't expect you to have that level of production on your second stream, right? That's like
Yeah.
just nobody expects that. No one in their right mind will go like, "Oh, it's your second stream. Get it together, Grouch." Like, come on, like like
well,
no
Right.
one's gonna say that.
I think that mentality comes from the idea like dress for the job that you want, and like people want to
True.
be successful at
Fake
this,
it till you
True,
make it.
true.
Yeah.
the like majority of Twitch streams are people being clowns. So
Professional talents.
Yeah.
That's my job description on here.
Yeah. So let's give our summary thoughts on this. I'm going to summarize with this concept and try to drive this home a little bit. I want to recommend, based on everything that we've discussed today, that if you're no matter what level streamer you're at, like you almost never want to just hand your identity and your branding over to Fiverr and just ask Fiverr to do it all for you and then just like take it and put it up and be done. Because you're skipping the organic process of what might be fun for your community and the ideas that you might come up with that if you had nothing there, but now you've got something there and you feel weird that you're going to change it because this is my alert. I don't know. Like you kind of need to leave yourself open. If you, the better way to go about it, if you want to make sure, if you want to take it more seriously, is to find someone, an artist who understands the streaming space and can work with you on a regular basis to help you execute those creative ideas that you do come up with in the process and do it a little bit at a time. There's actually a really valuable thing in doing this process. Your community likes to see things get better on your stream. They like it when your camera is bad and then gets better. They like it when your microphone is bad and then gets better. They like it when your alerts are basic and then get better. And you kind of want to like have this natural progression towards things being improved. Hey, we got new alerts, we got new panels. Check out the panels, they're cool. You know, we got new emotes. Like that is like an ongoing relationship that you have with your viewers in a way. So being done is a bad idea. Especially
Well,
with
like-
alerts.
that kind of thing is something like just from my other creative interests that I've like taken into account when I came to streaming, because like there are bands who have like the singer's like the best singer ever, but like it's their first album and then they sound exactly the same for the rest of their albums. It gets boring, right? You don't
yeah.
see improvement. You're not with this person on their journey to getting good at whatever it is they're doing.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think like people like being along for the journey for that kind of thing, and
Absolutely.
it can be applied to something as simple as like having kind of a scuffed stream and then making it look good over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, especially for streaming, there's this really weird thing where people have this almost, I want to say, infatuation with small streams because of the attention that they get and all that. And there's a lot of people who love watching a small stream thrive and become like this popular place because then they go like, oh well, I was there at the beginning. I was there when he had 3 viewers, right? So there's something to that. I hate to say it, but
Yeah.
like there's something to that,
Yeah.
and you're kind of depriving yourself of having that audience who does want to, like Pickle said, join you for a journey, right?
Yeah.
And see how you progress.
Yeah. Okay, Meats, do you have any final thoughts?
Don't be one dimensional. You know, be thoughtful, be able to laugh at yourself and let your community kind of guide you in some of these things, right? They help create the content sometimes too. And you can totally commandeer that because you are the content and use it, right? Absolutely.
Cool. Okay. Well, hopefully this episode of the podcast was helpful to you guys listening. And if you want more, we have plenty of episodes on other topics. We're trying to dig deeper and deeper into some of this stuff. So check us out on YouTube, and you can come watch this live on Twitch, Infinite Quality Live. On Fridays, I do a troubleshooting stream and help people fix their stuff. And what else? Anything else? I think that's probably good. Yeah, we got one more.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. All that stuff.
All right, we'll see everybody in the next one.
That is your ASMR portion of the evening.